Nobody sent me down there because I was special. They sent me because I was the one they could spare. That is how it works on Seth 4. The survey station runs on a skeleton crew. 14 of us, most of them scientists or systems engineers, people whose names go on the reports. My name goes on the maintenance log. Lyra Voss, Civilian Support Grade 2. I seal moisture breaches. I recalibrate the thermal lining along the sub-level corridors. I patch the condensation damage that the moon's long cold does to every joint and seam. I have done it for 6 years. I am good at it. Nobody thinks very much about that. The sub-level vault had been sealed since before the station was built. The original survey team, not ours, an older one, a century back, had found the chamber already buried. They documented it in 3 lines and moved on. It was not their mandate to investigate. When our team arrived and took over the station, the vault was in the file as a footnote, pre-existing enclosed structure, access denied, unknown mechanism, contents unverified. Over the years, a few of the scientists had stood at the vault door and studied it, run instruments over its surface, argued about it in the common room. The door never opened. After a while, they stopped going down, but the moisture was getting in somewhere. The lower sub-level readings had been creeping for 2 weeks. Not dangerous, not yet, but the kind of slow damp that rots a seam from the inside if you ignore it long enough. Station Commander Rel pulled up the schematic, traced the probable origin point to the sub-level corridor adjacent to the vault, and looked around the room at his 14 people. The scientists were mid-cycle on a core sample analysis. The engineers had the atmospheric recycler open on the upper deck. He looked at me. Voss, moisture seal, sub-level 3. That was the whole conversation. I took my kit and went down alone. The corridor beside the vault is narrow, barely wide enough to turn sideways, and the walls sweat in a way the upper levels do not. Seth 4 has a long rotational period, and the cold comes in cycles. Pressing through the rock in waves the thermal lining can only slow. I worked my way along the wall methodically, running my sensor wand in slow passes. Logging the readings. I was not thinking about the vault. I was thinking about a seam junction 12 meters back that had shown a microgap on last month's inspection. And whether the sealant compound I had with me was the right grade for the temperature differential I was reading. The vault door was to my left the whole time. I did not look at it. It was not my assignment. I found the breach, air fracture in the thermal bonding along a wall section that abutted the vault's outer face. Standard cold compression failure. I set my kit down, pulled the sealant applicator, and began working the compound into the fracture. I had to press close to the vault wall to reach the upper edge of the break. My left hand went flat against the vault surface to brace myself. The surface was not stone, up close. I had assumed stone, the whole structure read as stone on the instruments, close enough that no one had questioned it. But under my palm it had a faint give, like something between dense ceramic and very old glass, and it was warm. Not the warmth of a heated interior, something else. A warmth that moved slightly under pressure, the way a living thing moves when it breathes. I held still. The sealant applicator was still in my right hand. I did not pull my left hand away. The vault door did not open. There was no grinding of ancient mechanisms, no dramatic fracture of a seal that had held for 11 millennia. What happened was quieter than that. Inside the vault, and I know this is not how acoustics work, there is no other way to describe it, a light changed. Through the door that had no visible gap, no seam, no window, a quality of light shifted, warm, the color of something very old that has been patient for a very long time. Then the door was open. It did not swing, it did not slide, it simply became open, the way a held breath becomes an exhale. One moment there was a sealed surface under my hand, and the next there was an archway, and beyond the archway was a chamber no instrument had ever read correctly. It was not large. That surprised me. I think I had imagined, in the 6 years of walking past the footnote in the station file, that whatever was inside would be monumental. A vaulted space, a towering structure, something proportional to 11,000 years of waiting. The chamber was perhaps 4 meters across and 3 high. The walls were the same dense, almost ceramic as the door. The floor was swept clean in a way that suggested it had always been clean, that dust had never been permitted to settle here. In the center of the chamber, suspended at chest height with no visible support, was the crystal. I say crystal because I have no better word. It was faceted. Dozens of faces, each one a slightly different angle, each one catching the light from a source I could not identify and returning it in a color I had no name for. The light in the chamber had no origin, point. It simply was the way light is in a dream. Crystal rotated very slowly, one full turn every few seconds, and the colors it threw across the walls moved with it. I stood in the archway and did not go in. Some part of me understood, without being told, that I should not go in unless I was invited. I waited. Crystal's rotation slowed, then stopped. All its faces oriented toward me at once, which should have been geometrically impossible. Faceted object cannot face every direction simultaneously, but it did. The colors on the walls settled into a single shade, the soft amber of something coming home after a very long time away. Then I felt it. Not in my ears. In my sternum, the flat bone at the center of the chest, the one they tell you conducts sound at certain frequencies. It resonated. A single pulse, deep and even, like a bell struck once in a very large room, and inside that resonance, without volume, without direction, out any mechanism I can name, were 5 words: carry you still, first keeper. I do not know how long I stood there. My sensor wand was still in my right hand. The sealant applicator had fallen. I heard it clatter somewhere behind me in the corridor. The sound was very far away. My family has been on Seth 4 since the first colonial wave, 3 generations back. Before that, we were transit workers on the Vareth shipping lanes, not pilots, not commanders, just the people who loaded the manifests and walked the cargo holds and kept the seams sealed. Before that, grandmother's people worked the deep rock surveys on a system I could not point to on a map. Ordinary people, service people, the kind that keep things running, without expectation of recognition. I had never questioned that. It had simply been who we were. The crystal drifted forward. Not fast, not dramatic, just the slow, certain movement of something that had already made up its mind, and settled to a stop at arm's length from my face. The amber light was warm on my skin. Up close I could see that the facets were not random, they were inscribed. Thousands of lines, thinner than a hair, covering every surface. A script I did not recognize but which felt, in some part of my mind I had no language for, like a very old notation system reduced over long practice to pure shorthand. My family shorthand. The way my grandmother logged cargo manifests in a notation no one else could read. The way my mother marked her survey charts, with a symbol she called a habit. The way I mark my own maintenance logs. A small bracketed sequence at the end of each entry that I have always done, and never thought to question, because it is simply how it is done. I lifted my hand. The crystal came to rest against my palm without touching it, held in the space just above my skin, warm and rotating again now, slowly. Carry you still, first keeper. Shh. 11,000 years is a long time to hold something for someone who does not know they are coming. But it had held. It had waited through the century when the first survey team walked past and filed a footnote. It had waited through 6 years of scientists, standing at its door with instruments and arguments. It had waited, in its small clean chamber, tating in its own amber light, until the person they sent down was the one who could spare. I finished the sealant repair. I logged the moisture breach as resolved. I took my kit and walked back up to the main level, and I told Commander Rel that the seam junction had been the source and I had corrected it. He said, "Good work, Voss," and went back to his schematic. I sat down in the equipment bay and held my hand open on my knee for a long time, feeling the ghost of the warmth that was still there. Faint, and even as though something ancient had laid its weight in my palm and decided, after 11,000 years of patience, that the wait was finished. I am not a king. I am not an heir to any throne. I do not know what a first keeper is, or was, or is expected to become, but I know that something chose to carry it, whatever it is, all the way, across 11,000 years of silence, without being asked, without recognition, without reward, and it called that carrying an act of faith in me. That is not nothing. Whatever else it turns out to be, it is not nothing.